Welcome to the Skin Philosophy Edit with your host, myself, Annalouise Kenny. I'm here to bring to you the knowledge and skills to level up your business. We are speaking to industry experts across the industry to make sure that you're getting your knowledge in skincare, equipment, ingredients, and everything else you need to make sure you have the best of your business. Hi, and welcome back to the Skin Philosophy Edit with myself, Annalouise, and today I have Sarah Johnson, skin specialist, up in the arm here to talk to me today about her beautiful clinic and being in the industry for quite a while. So thanks, Sarah, for coming on the podcast with us. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's super exciting.
So we'll start from the beginning. You've been in the industry nearly 20 years. So straight from school. So what made you come into the industry? What was your passion then?
I just was always fascinated about everything about the beauty industry, from what I assumed it was like from an outsider when I was, young, that I thought it was really glamorous, and I loved the thought of helping people, and I just loved spending time with people, and it seemed like a really calm, relaxing job to have, which now I realise it isn't always like that, but that was probably my naive first impressions of the industry. And I just knew from my final year at school that was what I wanted to do, and I wanted to follow through with it.
And did you go into, say, beauty? Because I did it also about 20 years ago. I did my beauty because it was not really just studying skin. So did you do your full beauty?
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't a thing as common now where you can become a specialist. I left school, went straight in and enrolled at college to do my NVQ level 2 and 3. And as part of the course, you went on placement 1 day a week to like a real salon to get your salon experience. And after about a month or so of doing that, I was actually offered to move and do a full-time apprenticeship at the salon. So then kind of swap and do college 1 day a week and then be actually in the salon, which was such an amazing opportunity because then you're actually learning hands-on and working in a real salon. And that was amazing for me to do.
And so the salon at the time, you were doing all the treatments like waxing, nails, skin, everything.
Yes, everything. And because that was kind of what you did, I think, back then. Always preferred facial treatments. So when I qualified, it was always, if I had a day full of facials, it was like my favourite day of the week. And naturally it was what I became busier doing. So I don't know whether it just that radiated that I was enjoying that more, or maybe that was my path that I was meant to be on. But that became what I did do more of. And it was only much later on when I decided to redesign the business when I was starting a family that I actually created it as a facial business, and that's been the best thing I've ever done.
Okay, so you worked in the salon for how many years?
The salon where I did my training. So I qualified there, and then I got another job as a qualified therapist at another local salon. And then about a year later, I decided to branch out and set up on my own. So I was just 19 years old.
So you set up your own business when you were 19?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, when I look back now, it feels a bit like, now I'm a mum, I think, gosh, if my 19-year-old was going to do that, I'm not quite sure really what my parents thought of it, but I don't know, at the time it just seemed the right thing to do, and I definitely didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have, big bank balance, to fall back on. It was actually in 2008, so we were in a recession. So on paper, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong, but I didn't have a plan B. It just was always going to work.
And so you decided you were going to set up. How did you decide where you were going to set up, what you were going to do? Because that's what people really struggle with. The treatments are one thing, but setting up your own business, deciding, your units, your branding, your name, everything. How did you decide all of that?
To be honest, I didn't give it a lot of thought. When I look back now, I think, gosh, how did I make it a success? I was winging it really in the beginning because I had no business training. I was very determined, and still am a really hard worker. I decided to rent a room in a hairdresser's at first, because in my head that seemed like less of a risk. I didn't want to have staff or, the worry of massive overhead. So that seemed a bit like low level entry kind of thing to having your own business. But it wasn't the right place for me. I only lasted 6 months there because the treatments that I were doing just didn't suit being part of a busy, bustly hair salon. The environment was just not right, and I just knew very quickly that I was in the wrong place. So then decided I had to move, I had to find somewhere else, and that was then when I went to open my own actual salon, because I was scared to find another room to rent and then be in the same situation where I wasn't happy. So I moved to a salon on the local high street, and then found myself in this place that had more rooms, which then I felt like I needed to fill. So I then ended up on this journey of taking on staff, which was never part of the plan at all, but it just kind of was all happening for me, and it was hard to kind of keep up with it, but yeah, I tried my best.
Yeah, it is tough because there's a huge difference, when you first start out, you're by yourself, but then if something goes wrong, it's only on yourself.
Yeah.
But when you start taking on staff, and when you have the responsibility of their wages and all of that, making sure the money's coming in, making sure clients coming in, it's completely different pressure on top of it. So how did you find that at the start?
A nightmare. I mean, I was only 20, so I had no experience in management or, how to deal with staff. And it wasn't what I really wanted deep down, but it had just kind of all happened. I found it really hard to find the right staff that were as passionate as I was, that would, work to as high a standard as I wanted them to. And I found it really, really stressful, and I struggled with staff, with different types of staff. So I tried self-employed staff, then employed staff, then I tried an apprentice, lots of different ways to see if it could work. And for different reasons, it just never worked. And after about 4 or 5 years of trying it, I realised that my biggest stresses from having the business were coming from staff. I actually loved having my own business, as in being self-employed, looking after my clients myself. But that part of it made me unwell. I was miserable and never really made me any money. I'd never managed to find the right person where it could help me financially. So I finally decided after about 5 years to give up on that, because it wasn't the dream, and just focus solely on me, myself and my clientele, and that was such a good decision for me.
But it must have been really hard at the time, because there's a certain amount of pride as well, because you're like, oh, I have to change around the business, I have to make it smaller, what it looks like to other people. You could be walking away with more money in a month than you would be having staff, but it's that appearance of what people think. So how did you deal with it?
I think by the time I made the decision, my health took priority and my happiness, and I realised that that was the most important thing. And you can have a really successful business as a one-man band, or making it work for you. And I definitely feel like I just knew it was the right thing for me. I had to put out of my mind what other people thought. Yeah,
exactly. And so then you decided, okay, I'm going to give up the unit, I'm going to give up the salon. So how did you come to your decision of, okay, it's going to be a room now, it's just going to be myself, what treatments am I going to do, I'm going to get rid of all the beauty? Why was that process?
So that transition happened when I was pregnant with my first little girl, who's now 9, and I knew, because I decided there was no staff anymore, it was only going to be me. And although I could never give up the business because that's my original baby, I knew that I would have to have some time off, and I didn't want to have to work full time with a young baby. So I knew I had to redesign it. And we did the numbers and worked out that I could afford to keep the salon premises going on my own if I reduced my hours, but there wouldn't be a lot left over, and then it would mean closing up for days, which isn't ideal when you're on a high street. So I knew I had to rebrand. And that was when I decided to set up from home. I did toy with the idea of mobile therapy for a while, but I just found it would be probably more stressful, and trying to carry all your equipment and that wasn't right for me. And it was actually a conversation with my skincare rep at the time, who was a really great friend, who I remember sitting like this and confiding in her, and I was pregnant and I was saying, I just don't know what to do. And I wish I could just do facials all of the time. You know, that's my dream. I love doing things like that. And she basically just sat me down and she said, well, why don't you? You know, why don't you? Lots of places, you know, just specialise, you know, especially in big cities. And, you know, you could rebrand and call yourself Sarah Johnson Facialist. And I was like, that sounds amazing. And it was like somebody giving me that idea, that then this fire started inside of me. And I thought, yes, this is exactly what I could do. And yeah, I never looked back from that.
So now here, what do you offer? So you're sticking like advanced skin treatments, LED?
Yes, so solely facial treatments. I don't do any body treatments or anything like that. Everything that I do is all bespoke. And I'm really passionate about that because I think it's the key to success for your clients to really see the results. So what I mean by that is I treat everybody as a complete individual. So there isn't a list of facials that they pick from that they kind of think, oh, that sounds like what I need. They book the time with me, and then I will sit with them at every appointment, no matter how long they've been a client for, and really take the time to listen to them and learn what is their concerns that particular day, what it is that they need. And it might be a combination of advanced treatments like radio frequency or microneedling, but it might be also hands-on holistic treatments. Sometimes it's one or the other, sometimes it's a bit of both. And I just tailor it to exactly what they need at that time, because it's different for everybody.
Yeah, everybody is different. So the skincare you're using mainly Matisse?
Yes, so Matisse is my main skincare, so I absolutely love their products. It's a luxury French brand. They deliver incredible results. I also have HelioCare for my SPF, which I love because we know that that's such an important product, and I love that they have such flexibility for every client. I have the advanced nutrition supplements because again, we know getting the active ingredients internally makes such a big difference. So I'm very fortunate to work with some really good brands.
Yeah, and you're not doing any of the needling or peels yet.
So I do micro needling, and then I do like low level peels, so kind of like your lunchtime peels, but nothing where there's huge amount of downtime or anything like that.
Okay, and so deciding your brands, because a lot of people are struggling with deciding brands. How did you decide these brands?
It's hard because you have to do so much research, and you have to really align with the brand and everything that they are about, I think, to really feel like you can represent them properly and to feel like they're right for your clients. The training is always really important to me, so what training they provide, the aftercare support, and just feeling like the companies care about you as a stockist and are there to support you. So that would be, I'd say, research and try everything yourself, because I cannot sit and recommend anything to any of my clients if I haven't used it and if I don't believe in it myself, because then they would just know that that's not genuine. So I would only ever recommend anything that I truly believe in.
Yeah. And what have you found like challenges working within this industry?
Gosh, so many challenges. Obviously, staff was my first major challenge. A lot of the challenges are just trying to juggle everything, which I think as a female and a mother, it's really hard to try and, you want to have your business, you've got your business goals, but then if you've got a family, you've got those responsibilities and desires as well. So trying to create the dream business, I think, was a big challenge for me. And for a long time, I probably had limiting beliefs on what I could do or how I could run the business. I always felt I had to offer late nights because that's what everybody does, and I'd always done it, but really didn't want to do that so much when I had children. I didn't want them to have to go to after school club and things like that. And I think it's just believing that you can create your dream business. You just have to know exactly what it is that you want.
Yeah. And it's hard picturing that at the start because you don't know what the industry is. So it's like, it's good to get into the industry first and have a feel around. And so what would you like to develop now over the next few years?
So I feel like I've been non-stop since I started, but over the last 5 years, ever since COVID happened, I think so many businesses changed massively. It gave us time to stop and really evaluate things. I've made a lot of changes and improvements over the last few years. And then you get yourself on a bit of a hamster wheel of like constantly looking to change and improve things. And this year, actually, I've really learned to try and just enjoy where I'm at and stop trying to change everything all of the time, because you can become a bit addicted to that, I think. So it's trying to get a balance between constantly looking to better yourself, better the service that you're giving your clients and make it the best it can possibly be, but then also realising that you don't have to reinvent the wheel all of the time. So from the salon point of view, I feel like I'm actually in a really good position now with dream clients that pay me well, that want to have the treatments that I love doing. So for that side, I want to enjoy it. But then I have just started to launch another service where I hope to help other therapists who are in the industry or wanting to get into the industry, just to kind of share my advice and my knowledge, because I love helping people. And I get quite a few messages from people in the industry, just asking me questions on Instagram, how do you do this and can you share that? And I'm one of those people that would share. I don't, keep everything to myself. I think there's enough success for everybody out there, and I actually really like to help other people. And if I ever come across somebody that feels like they don't have the confidence, or maybe they've been where I was, or they are where I was, a few years ago, I want to kind of give them the belief that I needed back then to create their dream business too. Yeah,
and it is, because it can be a very lonely place when you're starting out, especially setting a business, coming up against challenges, everything like that. So it's a great thing to do, definitely. And so with now, say developing, you're going to, instead of like growing more or like making it bigger, you're just going to be happy and content. How are you getting on with like having your clients, building the clients, having them here with socials and stuff like that? Because that's a big struggle with people, social media.
I mean, I'm really lucky that I built a real loyal base kind of before social media was a big thing. And it took a long time. I was thinking now, if I was setting up now, it would be a lot easier, maybe in some senses, if you've got things like social media. Social media was something that I was quite late to the party with, probably like when we were in the lockdowns is when I really, really pushed it, because it was the only way to communicate with the customers. So I had to kind of learn things myself, because I was very complacent, before then. I don't need to do that. I've got my clientele. And then suddenly it was, okay, now I do need to learn all of that. And I actually really do enjoy it. I'm a massive perfectionist. So if I decide to do any sort of post, I will spend such a long time creating the content, editing the picture. If I do a video, I am quite fussy with things, and I've tried to look at outsourcing things, but again, I am a bit of a control freak, so I think when it's just you, it's very hard to, because I want it to come across as it is me that is writing the post, not somebody else. I do find that difficult. So yeah, it can be a full-time job. I think because I'm not looking necessarily to grow my clientele any more than what I am, I don't need to worry too much about it, but then you still want to have a good presence. So I try and use my platform to educate and help and give as much information as I can, because I think that's what the clients love to read about.
Yeah, exactly. And say as a parting kind of, is there anything tip-wise that or advice you would give anybody getting into the industry now?
I would probably say really think about what you want to offer and specialise in and become a specialist in that thing, especially now, because you don't have to offer everything. You don't have to do what I did, and if you don't want to, and offer every single beauty treatment, and just learn your craft. inside out. Just know it and never stop learning, so that you do become the expert in that. And the other thing I would say, which is something I didn't do in the beginning, is learn your numbers. Know your numbers from a business point of view from the beginning, because it really is the key. And I think so many people in this industry undersell themselves and don't charge their worth. And you start off doing that properly. And I learned the hard way, and it took me time to get to where I am. But
we're not very good at business, at profit margins.
No, we love our clients, and we don't. I don't think I know anyone. Any of my industry friends didn't go into this because they're necessarily business minded. You go into this job because you just love helping people, and you love caring for people, and that's your passion. And then you open this business, and then all of a sudden all these other things, kind of responsibilities and tax and numbers, and you think, how do we do that? So learning the numbers. When I first started to do that properly, it was eye-opening, because some of the treatments that I had offered in the early days were not profitable at all, but I thought they were. That's really, really important.
It's a shock when you work out, and I see some people and they're offering some treatments and it's so cheap, and I'm like, that's not even going to cover you a minimum wage if you're in a job. If you take out the expenses of that won't even give you the bare minimum from it. So it's crazy. We don't think about that. We just think, oh, well, we'll get more people in, and we'll just make more in a day. But it doesn't work like that.
No. And you don't always get the right clients either, doing it like that. So charge your worth. You train really hard, invest in good quality equipments and products, and charge what that is worth, and you'll get the quality clients in return. And who doesn't want a day filled with lovely quality clients, rather than people that are going to complain and that just want cheap,
the best bargain. I know it's difficult. It is where we position ourselves as branding. That's all it comes down to, is who we're selling to. And if we're selling to people from a cheap price, we're going to get that back. So it's making sure you do have your value with it. I know it's difficult though at the start, because you're just like, oh my God, I need to pay everything back.
Definitely. And I used to do that in the beginning. You'd put a special offer on, and obviously not knowing the numbers properly. I did those bargain Groupon things in the very early days. And when I look back now, I just cringe that I ever did that, because they just want you to create this package that is enormous, that is so cheap, and I never got any loyal clients from any of those ever. So I know a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time have tried things like that, but in my experience, don't discount ever. Add value. So I'll never ever do a discount, but I'll maybe add something into a treatment so that the client's getting more than what they booked for, but it's not costing me as much, but the value to them is better. And most clients prefer that than 10% off. It's a bit rubbish, isn't it?
I know, exactly. And it is that they want to have a more fulfilling experience than just an extra 10 quid. I mean, and who doesn't want a lovely experience? I do like a bargain, but in most things a bargain is not really, bargain and luxury doesn't come together. And I suppose it depends on your business model, and for me, I want to offer a high end luxury service, and I want to attract the clients that want that as well. Exactly. Okay, well, that's great. Your advice has been really good, and it's lovely to hear this story, and obviously you've been through a lot of experience, and it's great to have you here to impart that to our students.
Thank you
very much for it.